Welcome to The Jump. Thanks to Hungry Jack's, the burgers are better. We have a huge show coming your way tonight. The Grand Final series is set. Will Sydney go back-to-back, or will New Zealand topple the Kings? We cannot wait for that to start. We'll have a chat about that. Plus, the Boomers are in action tomorrow night. Isaac Humphries, of course, is going to join us in the lead-up to that tonight on the show. Andrew Gazey, Leonard Copeland, and Kane.
Welcome back, Andrew Gazey.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
To
be back with the team.
Just come in when you get ready. Just come in when you get ready.
No, but I know ratings took a little bit of a hit last week. Anyway, let's not get into that. Hey, you missed the lead item too.
Sorry.
On the introduction of things to look forward to. Now, have to just wait a little longer till it's past a certain time, because for the first time in Jump history, we're going to see some nudity on the. We are going to
on the show tonight.
We get to chat with one of the legends, Steve Carfino. And it'll all be revealed a little later on.
Steve taking it off.
Clearly, it's all going to be revealed later on. It sounds like it. Okay, well, can't wait to see exactly where you are going to take this. But we should talk about the championship series, because finally the top two teams, probably the best two teams in the competition, going head-to-head. This is how it's all going to start. These are the first three games. It could go to 5. I don't know. Probes, do you reckon it could go all the way? Because you tipped the New Zealand Breakers, didn't you?
Absolutely, I picked the New Zealand Breakers. And Joy just mentioned, with the 3 imports that they have, you got to give them a chance. It's a 2-horse race, Joy. You have to give them a chance. I know you picked Sydney. New Zealand have a chance, brother.
No, well, you're right. I think the little injury to Xavier Cooks, the timing because of the FIBA break could not have come better for the Sydney Kings. They get that extra week to try and get Xavier Cooks that ankle right. But you're right, New Zealand have been spectacular. Their 3 imports are a power pack. And remember, even though Sydney got them by, I think it was like 2 in Sydney, in New Zealand earlier on the season, they came back from 20 points down. And with Brown Jr. playing the way he plays, Brantley is a star, and Pardon,
one of the best defender,
one of the best defensive players. And also the thing, you're going to see a real contrast, because the New Zealand Breakers, as far as pace of play, they're one of the slower paced teams, whereas the Sydney Kings, they like to get up and down.
Kane, what do you make of the Sydney Kings and their form? Do you think they're at their best yet, or is that still to come?
Not quite offensively, and they weren't in this series against the Cairns Taipans. Now, we should give the Taipans credit. I think we'll get to them a bit later. They have been a really good defensive team, but you saw it took until the 4th quarter of Game 3 for that man that we just saw, DJ Vasiljevic, to knock down a few shots. He was really struggling beforehand. So I don't think the Kings have totally broken out offensively yet. I think he's a major key to that. But no doubt this is 2 absolutely elite defensive teams.
And you know what I saw against the Kings that scared me a little bit? Cairns double-teamed Cooks a couple of times, and the Kings couldn't handle it in the beginning. Now, in the second half, they found a way to get it done. But if New Zealand come out with some kind of schemes that way, can Sydney handle it?
Well, and they've done that for a big chunk of the season. They've based everything they've been doing on the defensive end, where I think they've been one of the elite defensive teams. And offensively, they've got some tools to go with. So they are a tough out for the Sydney Kings. I think the Kings go in as the favourite, because usually the regular season doesn't lie. And these two teams... home court advantage, that's going to be a factor as well. But it's tasty. I'm really looking forward to it.
We are, and it's going to drag out, because as we spoke about a little bit earlier and mentioned, the FIBA window is open, so we're not going to get any play until March 3. That's when it starts. It's a fairly decent break indeed. And before I get your thoughts about whether there's any concerns there, this was New Zealand Breakers coach Mody Mayo on the situation.
It's a weird thing. It's the first time I've seen playoffs that have like a big break in between. Do the best of it. We'll make the most of the time. Prepare, practice, get healthy, get ready. My connection with the Tall Blacks, or my opinion about the Tall Blacks, is always 100% the same. Representing your country is the utmost honor. Any player that feels this is the right time for him to go and play for the Tall Blacks, it's fine by me. Tall Blacks have done a great work. They've put themselves in a great situation, qualify, etc. They also have a really deep roster with incredible New Zealand players. So either way, if they go or stay, I'm happy.
Then we saw the coaching brilliance of Modi, because he's saying, yeah, you can play, but by the way, all officials, you've done some fantastic work. You don't need my guys. You don't need my guys coming up here. So how's about you leave them home so they can prepare for a grand final series? But
it is
it's
a decent time, isn't it? It's about 2 weeks that they won't play and have that break. And I know you talk about Xavier Cooks and maybe giving time to get some of those niggles right, but are we concerned about having that slow start? I guess with a 5-game series, there's no chance of playing the game, one game, in your head before it starts.
Yeah, but, you know, playing against your own team in practice can get boring sometimes and monotonous. You know, these guys are beating each other up. They can't wait to get to the other team. So I'm looking forward to it. Get Modi some throat lozenges, by the way, because he's lost his voice from yelling at all those players. But I think it's going to be a great series.
And more it snaps the momentum, I think, with the fans. You know, it's such a big break. They're all excited. It's a long time to be excited for before it gets underway. And even then, we've seen in the past, a best of 5, if it goes that far, not a lot of time, but you've got a fair chunk of time between that Game 2 and Game 3 as well. So it's going to be interesting.
You'd have to think, too, in Sydney to be rocking that. It'd be 16,000, 17,000.
You'd like to think so. They've got plenty of time to mark and get it going.
Plus, think about us media folk, because we are literally going to be previewing this game for 2 weeks straight, but we can't wait. Well, on Sunday, of course, the seasons of Tasmania and the Cairns Taipans unfortunately came to end. Both clubs have had phenomenal seasons. I mean, you look at the Jack Jumpers, nearly back-to-back grand final series, and then Kane, the Taipans, they won 9 games, finished 9th last season. What Adam Ford has been able to do with that side has been incredible, and they really had a good crack against the Kings.
They did, and they were undermanned, and they really had injuries right throughout the season, and that's the obvious point that everyone can make. They were a really good defensive team, and I think this series did play out a little bit what we saw across the course of the season. They shot more threes than any other team in the league, but they weren't all that good at it, and they did that against the Kings, and if they had a hot game, we saw them knock down some threes in Game 2 and they were able to win, but ultimately their lack of ability to hit a high percentage of threes on that high volume hurt them in the end, because offensively they didn't have a great series.
How many teams can you take 2 of your marquee guys,
right.
2 starters out of it and still be in contention, which they very much were? And the word was Tajim McCall, he was also hurt in that last game as well. So they were, make no excuses, and I'm sure Adam Ford doesn't, but it's an explanation. It's something that you can't ignore, and it's a terrific work by the Cairns Taipans, and they deserve all the credit that we can give them because of the way in which they handle themselves.
And at the end of the day, they found out that Wardenberg is an absolute superstar.
Yeah, he's a great one.
He's a great
Huge.
pickup.
So I have a question for the 3 of you, because Keanu Pinder is a free agent. So is Bull Quoll, which is really interesting. Do they both re-sign? What happens? Because I reckon Pinder could probably command a little bit of cash.
Probably could, but I would think because he's playing so well under 40, you would want to stay there, because 40 brought him. I mean, look, before he went to Cairns, he was in Adelaide and he wasn't the same player. You know what I mean? So now all of a sudden he's let him play his game. He's excelled, and Cairns has got to come up with some money because you would love to keep him on that team.
Yeah, and Adam Ford did mention that after the game. He said, we understand that when you go down the route of getting these young guys straight out of college, they do come at a cheaper price. And if they play really well, every other team looks at that and they're like, we can spend more than the Cairns Taipans. We're going to try and poach your players. So Adam Ford knows it's coming, and what they'll be leaning on is the unfinished business, the emotional pull, Gazey. But ultimately, if you are an older player like Pinder, he might think, I just need to make some cash. And that could be a big...
Nothing wrong with making cash.
No, we know. That's why the Tigers aren't here. Everyone says the Tigers no longer. We had to pay this bloke.
Wow.
Now, how about this for a feel-good story? It's gone viral worldwide. Young Henry, 8 years old, from Tasmania, thinks he's going to the dentist, but his mum surprises him with a trip to New Zealand to see the Jack Jumpers play Game 3. After the game, he's inconsolable, absolutely devastated, and Tassie skipper Clint Steinel sees him, goes over to console him. This is just such a beautiful moment. Take a look.
We did the handshake line and walking off the floor, and the little fella was in tears. So, I just had a chat to him, and then I kind of walked off, and then just saw my shoes. I took them off, went back, gave them to him, and he was still in tears, so I just told him to keep his head up. I mean, he travelled all the way out to see us get a win, and unfortunately it didn't happen. And it was just something I thought I could do to try and mean, as much as I tried to put a smile on his face, he still had the tears. But maybe puts him up in his bedroom or something, gives him something to aspire to, and that's what we're trying to do in Tassie. And yeah, just try to help the little fella out.
I've watched that about 10 times.
Did you cry?
And I cried every single time,
Absolutely.
except for right now. I really held it together. That's pretty much me after every Melbourne United loss.
You know what? The story actually got even better because I think it was on Tuesday. Scott Roth, that young fella there, Scott Roth shows up to his school and presents.
No way.
Absolutely. And goes in there to.
That's why the fans love those guys.
But doesn't that just encapsulate like the culture at the Jack Jumpers and why they're just such a great side culture?
He'll be a fan for life. He'll be a fan for life.
Oh, absolutely he will.
Well, big news in the NBL today is that Simon Mitchell has stepped down as Southeast Melbourne Phoenix coach. Kane, fill us in. It sounds like he just lost the joy and the desire and the energy, really, with this group.
Yeah, there's a pretty nice story on ESPN.com.au. Olgun Ulic wrote that one, and he spoke to Simon Mitchell last night, and Simon said that it was a really challenging year for him. This team went through the ups and downs. Again, they had the injury concerns all season long, and he just spoke about losing a little bit of the enjoyment out of coaching, and you can understand why it was a frustrating season for the Phoenix, but they're going to move on now. They're going to look for another coach, and the facts are that when this team was healthy, they had a really, really talented starting five. They just weren't able to keep them on the floor for long enough.
I think when you look at the bigger picture, we say, well done, Simon. You know, you inherited a new franchise and went 4 seasons, made the playoffs in a couple of those and put together a program that, like we see with the Jack Jumpers, reaching out in the eastern suburbs here. And I think, you know, you can always go down and dissect certain moments. Oh, should he have done that and second guess what he's done, which many have done. But across all the checks and balances, I think he deserves credit for doing an outstanding job.
If you're the Phoenix, who are you going after?
Well, I think that they would have a...
Is your name in the book? Is your name in that?
Please.
I'm asking the question.
That Leonard Cope.
If you're...
They can afford Gazey, first of all.
But the fact that Simon's not going to be there suggests to me is that you would have had some conversations already with some... And I think it has to be... that their first priority is going to be a high-profile guy. Now, anytime there's a coaching position coming up, everyone's straight on the dime. Hey, Gorge, is there any chance that you could possibly come and help us out? Now, he has declared that he's working in Asia and wants to help that relationship there. And then the next one is Trevor Gleeson with the Toronto Raptors. He's assistant coach.
I've heard that, but why would you leave an NBA team? I don't get it.
Well, he's an assistant coach there. You've been there a couple of seasons. You've had that experience. And if you don't see a pathway where you can go up the ranks... Now, I'm sure there would be one there for him, but that's going to take some time to get those opportunities. And he might get to a point where, hey, come back to a country you know really well. He's in they've built a really good program and try and take you to that next step. Now, if it's not either of those two, as we've seen recently, international coaches come into play, people we've never ever heard of. But Brisbane didn't go down that track, and I'm grateful for that. I think there's a lot of good Australian coaches that could come in and help out that program.
Look me in my eyes and tell me, if they made the call, would you take the job? Or would you talk to them? Would you answer the phone? Would you answer the phone?
Copeland.
Yes.
I knew.
You can't answer it.
I would. No, I'm not taking.
You're not taking the phone call.
If you're coming with me, let's do it.
No, I'm not doing it.
No, they're not calling me.
News headlines everywhere. Gates refused to shut the door. Hey, just because there's about 2 weeks until this grand final series actually takes off doesn't mean there ain't no basketball going around, because the Boomers are in action tomorrow night against Bahrain and again on Sunday as these World Cup qualifiers. Of course, they are essentially a dead rubber because the Aussies have already qualified for this year's World Cup. But we're still looking forward to all the action right here on ESPN Live, your home of hoops. And Kane, because we are in the middle of NBL finals and there's the NBA still going on, they've had to kind of turn to youth for this squad. Just fill us in on some of the youngsters, because there's 4 teenagers who are part of this.
Yeah, well, Alex Tui's new, is a favourite of this show, Gazey, and I was going to throw to you for that one, but I wasn't sure you were going to have it in you to get it out.
I didn't know there was new Tui's or Tui's new.
Exactly right.
I appreciate the help.
No, that's right, anytime. But yeah, there's a few young guys in here. They've also got some of the bronze medalists, so Nathan Sobey will be there, Nick Kay as well, Isaac Humphries, who we're going to catch up with in just a little bit. So there is some experience there from the NBL perspective, but it's unclear how many of these guys will be in the mix for a World Cup type scenario.
And more importantly, though, just share with the audience Bahrain. What can we expect from Bahrain? They've only won, I think, 2 games.
First of all, do you guys know any of the players?
Well, Gazey, I know that you're on the call, and this may be why you're asking this question, and you've got to do your own research sometimes, Gazey. But I will say this. Isaac Humphries coming up next, and I know you're going to ask him that question.
Well, I have been doing some research, and they've got a few players. Their best player is Wayne Chisholm, played at Tennessee. He's an American on the team. He's a naturalised Bahrainian guy. Ahmed Haji. Now, he's a guy that had 16 points in their last outing, so we've got to keep an eye on him. And Suba Azam. He's another one that in my research,
good, Gazey. Very
as I go through the YouTube clips. But here's the thing. Some of these players, when you go and have a look at them and you're preparing, you see them in one clip and then you don't see them in other games. So maybe they have similar issues to what we do with availability of players and those types of things.
Are you expecting
an
to win?
Apology to everyone out there from Bahrain if I didn't quite pronounce those names correctly. I will get it right by tomorrow.
I like that you've done your homework. All right, stay with us on The Jump. Isaac Humphries is going to join us on the other side of this. Still to come, of course, we're going to get the verdict on the NBA All-Star Game as well. But Isaac Humphries, Boomers big man, and of course Melbourne United, up next.
Cooks. Oh, my! Big play at a big moment. How many is that for the highlight reel this season for Xavier Cooks? And that is Jason Howard, who just drained
look at the swagger.
A 50K shot.
Look at the swagger of Big Taste. That's what I do. Nothing to see here.
So 3 seconds remaining. What can Kenyon do with it? The prayer is answered. I'm not even sure he thought it was going in. He ran after it. Tassie back the other way. Kenyon had the prayer in the opening term. Weeks, it's gone into seconds.
Wardenberg up top. That's off the front of the iron, and Sean Bruce had Noy up ahead. Slams it down.
Jeez. That was emphatic.
The Jack Jumpers continuing to keep their foot in it.
McDowell White puts it off for Dylan Pardon, and that might just do it for the Breakers.
You're watching The Jump thanks to Hungry Jack's. The burgers are better, and it's time now to introduce the first of our special guests on the show tonight. He's Melbourne United big man and, of course, Boomers big man, Isaac Humphries. Isaac, great to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, we should start, of course, by asking you about tomorrow night. How are things progressing, I guess, in the lead-up to the big game against Bahrain?
Yeah, really good. We've had a great week of practice. We all came in a training camp a few days ago and hit the ground running, and we've been training really hard and putting in some offense and coming together as a group, and it's been super competitive, and it's been a great time so far, yeah. How
much time have you actually been able to spend together as a group?
Well, we arrived Sunday, and our first game will be tomorrow on Thursday. So, yeah, that amount of time. And, you know, we're sort of in camp, and we all stay together in the hotel. So we get, you know, a lot of time with each other, to be honest.
Hey, Isaac, Bahrain. I'm not familiar with a lot of the Bahrainians. Is that how you say it? Bahrain's work. And then you back it up against Kazakhstan on Sunday. Have you done a deep dive into your opponents?
Honestly, no deep dive just yet. We've been trying to put in some offense for ourselves and some defense for ourselves. So the first half of the week's been more about what we'll do. I think tomorrow at shoot-around and our film sessions tomorrow will be very much about them, and we'll take each opponent as it comes, I think.
Ahmed Haji is going quite nicely as well. He had 16 in his last outing, so keep an eye out for him. But when you think of this as part of the program that you're involved in, it ultimately could lead to a World Cup opportunity, particularly for someone like yourself. We've seen that in the past. Nathan Sobey is another one that's taken this path, playing these games. Is that the ultimate goal for you, is to one day pull on a green and gold jersey at a World Cup, the Olympic Games?
Absolutely. You know, I got very close making that Olympic squad a few years ago, but I had to pull out because of my knee. Now that I'm back in the mix, doing some Boomers things, I'm very much wanting to get to that point. I know I need to, keep working really hard and have some good campaigns before that can happen, but it's very much in my brain, and I would absolutely love to, play in one of those tournaments. It's been a dream and a goal of mine since I was a kid and since I started playing for Australia, and I would, absolutely love to be a part of that group.
What's it actually like being part of this Boomers squad and the culture? Because I hear Gazey go on about it all the time and how special it is and the significance of it. But what's your experience been like being part of it?
Yeah, I've done a couple of Boomers tours now, and, every time I come to the team, the culture is very much a focal point, and it seems to be growing every time I come back, and, new things are added, and it's a really... it's just a really great competitive environment. Everyone wants the best for each other. You have the best of the best come together, and there's no selfishness. It's very much about helping your brother out and doing it all as a nation and as brothers. So it's great to be a part of. And I think the more you're sort of around it, the more you understand it, and the more you get to just get more comfortable with it, I guess. But yeah, it's a great environment to be in for sure.
Speaking of comfort, I guess it'd be a little easier for you because Dean Vickerman is at the helm. And having played this season, what was it like, first season playing with Melbourne United? And how did you find living in Melbourne and playing under Dean?
Yeah, I loved it. I had a great time in Melbourne. I loved playing for United. I was very honoured to play for United. It's an incredibly, good club historically, and it's got a lot of just great values, and I really enjoyed my time here. The city of Melbourne's great, and obviously Dean's reputation speaks for himself. He has all of our respect so in his hand, and everything he says we listen to, and he's an incredible coach. He's an incredible man, and I have a lot of respect for him. And doing this Boomers stint with him as the coach has been awesome as well. Some more experiences together, and yes, all in all, it's been great with Dino.
And is he implementing the same types of systems that he did with Melbourne United? Very short preparation, probably not a lot he can do in that short period of time. But is it basically the same types of structures that you have with Melbourne United?
Very similar. Very similar structures, very similar offences. I think there's a bit of both, obviously Boomers and Dino's influence. But yeah, I think that's been a nice piece for me. I've been able to come in and be pretty comfortable with the offense and defense pretty quickly because I've been doing it all year. So, definitely a bit of Boomer stuff and a bit of Dino stuff for sure.
Melbourne United fans love you. The big question is, are you going to be coming back next season?
I have no idea. I'm a free agent now. But like I said, I've honestly loved my time in Melbourne so much, and my whole life changed here, and my whole life changed before everyone's eyes in Melbourne. And I have so much love for the fans here in Melbourne and for the club. And no matter what happens in the future, I'll always hold a piece of Melbourne in my heart just because of how they treated me during such a vulnerable time in my life. And I'll always have that love for them. I would love to come back, but it's totally out of my control at this point.
Speaking of that moment as well, and just everything you've sort of been through in the last sort of 12 months in terms of, coming out publicly, I'm curious to know, are you still seeing the impact? Because I was reading this article about you and a little boy coming up to you and giving you a picture of a rainbow with your name on it. I mean, it must be just so great to see how much this is impacting others around you as well.
For sure. That's it's been a little overwhelming, to be honest with you. Every time I step out of the house, someone comes up to me with a new story and a new experience, and it's very humbling, and I love it. But it's, you feel a little bit of pressure and a bit of weight on your shoulders. I love that weight, and I'm really happy to take on that weight because I know that is doing good for the community and for the world. But yeah, it's a lot to handle. And it's actually World Pride Month right now, so. Some of the events I go to celebrating World Pride, it's obviously full of, my community, people from my community, and a lot of people know who I am in that community now. So I get a lot of stories and a lot of hugs and a lot of congratulations. But it's in those sort of environments I really see the effects, and it's pretty amazing. Obviously, tomorrow I'll wear the green and gold, and I'll be the first ever gay basketballer to play for their nation in the world, and it's a great honor for me. And And I think to do that during World Pride and during a time where, you know, progression's being made really quickly, and that's awesome. But I'm just really grateful to be doing this and being a part of some change. It's awesome.
No, it has been awesome, and we congratulate you on everything you've done, and the impact you're having extends beyond what you do on the basketball court. But before we came on air, you told us that you were going to be, after this event, that you're going to be taking off, going and spending some time in Los Angeles. You've been in part of the NBA before. Is the NBA still one of the big dreams that you have? Is that still on the agenda? Are you trying to get back there?
Yeah, it's always going to be on the agenda. I think any basketball player, you know, wants to aim for the highest level. My goal right now, I guess, is to just continue to get my body right and get some seasons under my belt. I still want to have a full season somewhere without any injury interruptions. So that's my goal, and I'll spend every off season fixing my body and getting it stronger until I can do that. So that's what I do in LA. I spend every single day working out, you know, for a lot of hours with some of the best coaches in the business, just trying to get my body to a point where I can be strong enough to play a full season.
Isaac, thank you so much for taking time out to join us on The Jump tonight. We really appreciate your time. Best of luck in the coming days with the Boomers, and then, of course, over in LA. And I'm sure the Melbourne United fans would be keen to see you back in the hoops again next season.
Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate your time.
Isaac Humphries there, Melbourne United and Boomers big man. Of course, stay with us on The Jump. Truth or Trash is coming up next. Is the dunk contest still alive? We will discuss that in just a moment. But to get you in the mood, here's a few more classic dunks.
The adrenaline is going now. There you go, young fella. I don't care how many times you tried that. That is a great dunk. I have no idea what he's doing. He's going to throw it off the backboard. I have no idea. Backboard. Okay. That angle. That was cold. That was deception. It was deception. Deception.
Still first attempt here for Donovan Mitchell.
Here we go. Okay. And he still slipped. And he still slipped a little bit on that. That was cold.
He incurred an injury dealing with weights in the weight room, so he stitched up in the left hand doing all this.
Oh, it's over! It's over, ladies and gentlemen!
The judges are coming over the table to congratulate Vince Carter. This is unheard of.
Another look.
Hey, Danny.
Hey, Kenny, he's got 3 of your top 5 all-time already.
Uh-oh. 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 Oh! I can do that too. Nobody gives me the chance.
You never skip leg day, huh?
You know what's the secret? You gotta jump early.
Don't cheat.
I told you the trick. Here.
Wow.
Give me that. No, sir. I got my 2 points. I'm good. That was for you.
Hey, I get a trophy too. Oh! Come on, fellas. Come on now. Come on now. Come on.
I'm tired for real. But it's like the perfect day.
I'm working here.
First time debut my shoe and break the record and win the All-Star Game MVP. Couldn't write a better story.
Time now for Truth or Trash.
Already.
NBA All-Star Game is where we start. Now, some love it and some, well, not so much. And before I pose the question to you three about whether we like this concept or not, let's hear from Denver Nuggets coach Michael Malone.
You know, it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be a part of a great weekend, great players, but that is the worst basketball game ever played.
How do you fix it?
I don't know if you can fix it. I mean, I give Joel Embiid, Kyrie Irving, those guys were like competing. Joel was imploring some of the guys to play harder, to try to get some defense in, but no one got hurt. They put on a show for the fans, but that is a tough game to sit through, I'm not going to lie.
So he was the coach of Team LeBron, and he's saying that. I mean, that is incredible to me. I want to get your views. So it's a truth or trash for the three of you. Does it need to go? Truth or trash? The NBL All-Star Game.
Go ahead, Coach.
Well,
I need to calm down.
Listen, I don't think it needs to go. It needs to change because what we saw the other night was terrible. I mean, someone called it a glorified layup line. Guys are just making layups and everyone's standing around watching. Back in the day, it was competitive. Guys went at it. They put up money. The winner wins a certain amount of money and a trophy, and they played hard and they competed, man. You want to see the best players in the NBA compete, especially in the All-Star game.
You're spot on, Coach, and I can go back and think of All-Star games in the past. I watched the 93 All-Star game, and that's when guys were going at it. They were competing. It meant something. There was a bit of pride. Have a look at this. Now, none of this you could see or resembled anything like that you saw in that All-Star game. That All-Star game was an indictment on the sport. And Mike Malone was spot on. Yeah, it's a tremendous honour. There's bonuses associated to be selected. It is a huge honour. Look at Michael competing. But look, there's an attempt. There's actually a screen. There's a bit of help. They're trying to guard one of the greatest players in the world. And it was fun. Right now, it is so poor that if that's what you're going to dish up. Now, I heard a lot of people say, well, here's the answer to it. Have it USA playing against the rest of the world. These guys make too much money. They're on $40, $50 million and they don't prioritise it. Maybe that might help a little. But I don't know, because there were internationals playing in that game as well. And I thought it's an indictment on the game, Kane. It's painful to watch.
Well, for people that love the competitive basketball and watch it every day, no, it wasn't all that entertaining. But it's also not catered to us, I don't think, today. Like, it has changed. And I think it's a pretty good showing of the wider problem of basketball, which is that the only thing that the media as well has been a part of it, and legacy and all these things, the only thing people care about is what you do in the playoffs. They don't care about the regular season. They don't care about who wins the All-Star MVP or who plays well. So this is a problem for basketball in general, not just the All-Star game, but the regular season. We talk about the load management. So it's the way the game's covered. It's the players making a whole ton of money. They don't want to go out there and get injured because the only thing that anyone will give them credit for is if they win the title. And that's the facts. It's not the violin, that's the facts.
But what if you just came out and you were just clear? This is not a competitive game. It's not about winning or losing. This is just for the fans. It's for entertainment. It's about trick shots and celebrating these personalities and the players. That changes everything. Like, that's the game.
But now they've got that. You've got that in a three-point shootout. I love the three-point shootout. Yeah. They're actually competing.
Skills. They got the skills.
They're trying.
They got the skills. Yeah.
And you know, the dunk contest lost its way for a long period of time.
It made
a bit of a revival. So I think that those elements to it. But to me, it shouldn't be a burden for these types of players to go out there and just try. Try to compete. Try to make a game of it. Test yourself against the best. And Kobe, Michael, and Larry, all those players in the past, they're not standing for that. They're not going to show up and stand there and watch someone walk by them and do that type of stuff.
Well, following on from that, Copes, this is now your truth or trash.
Okay.
The NBL now knows an All-Star game just won't work.
Well, that's trash because I think it will. I think it because over here in Australia, the guys are going to compete. And I give an example. You let the Americans play against the Australians and let these guys go at it, George. Try that and see what happens. The Americans are obviously going to win, but...
internationals versus Australians, not just Americans. You put all...
internationals versus Americans.
You're not going to win.
Are you going to coach the internationals?
I'll take it.
If he was there last year,
you're in trouble. As good as the Australians are, you guys might be in trouble.
So what if we got this off the ground for next season?
Yep.
Team Copes versus Team Gazey, are you in?
Yeah. Well, I
put a little something on it too. Put a little something on it.
Well, that's what would incentivise, I think, our guys, because they're not on 40, 50 million bucks. This means, and plus they play with a bit more pride.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're representing a sport that's still emerging, growing, and they're trying to develop the game. And you go out there and you compete. That's the best way.
I think it'll work.
Next week, I want your team.
Okay.
Right?
Starting fives.
Yep. Go do
from this season.
Yep. Do your homework.
Done.
Bring it
Done.
next week. Copes.
All right, now it's me, huh?
Yeah.
All right, Gazey.
Yes, please.
Truth or trash?
Yes, what have you got for me?
Mac McClung has saved the dunk contest.
Absolutely, he has. And it's only because of his brilliance. And here's a guy, what's he been in one NBA game?
This is
He's
outrageous.
been in the G League, just recently signed by the Philadelphia 76ers. Here's a guy that's been doing this his whole life. He's been in the junior dunk contest. He is doing stuff with authority and ease that even these mega athletes oohing,
all had their cameras and all had their video.
In something like this. Wow. 20, it was just saved the dunk contest because of what he was able to do.
And guess what he did? He signed the shoe contract right after that.
Really?
He did.
Yeah, he sure did. He sure did.
I think that might have been done before that, but
Well,
I think that
wasn't it done on the day after or something?
It's around that time, yeah.
you don't need to bring in cars and jump over cars. You know, the way he did it, he got the people jumped over the people, but that was special because over the people hit the backboard.
Plus, he's a little fella too. So.
We love that. We respect that.
That's right.
Yeah.
So he saved it. Hey,
All right,
now,
Gazey.
truth or trash, Kane? LeBron wants to finish his career in OKC. The way he was just speaking so glowingly of OKC.
Oh, Lordy.
Well, he did speak about Giddey. I think we've got the audio here.
Josh Giddey's really, really good, man. You know, obviously a tall point guard, you know, and is a triple-double type of playmaker every single night because of his ability to rebound at his size, his instinctive passing, and he has the ability to score in the paint. I think he's going to continue to get better and better. They have a really good young core over in OKC, and they don't even have Chet there just yet, you know. So, you know, but Josh is a really good player, you know, along with the other rookies that they have this year. And obviously we know first-time Shea is really good, and the rest of that crew over there. So, pretty good player for sure. You guys should be proud.
Now, as fun as it would be to see LeBron play with Josh Giddey on a nightly basis, I'm going to have to trash this one. Now, when you go to All-Star Weekend, you get the journalists from all over the world and they want to ask you this question. You've got no chance to say it. Now, what LeBron said was factual about Josh Giddey. He is on fire. But, Gazey, I don't think that he's moving from the LA spotlight to Oklahoma City.
Greater chance of Copes playing for OKC.
Wait.
And I'm not talking Copes 1993 Copes. I'm talking now Copes. Greater chance of him.
Wow, just roll me under the bus.
No, I'm just saying.
Look. Just roll me under the bus.
I'm just saying, bros. There's no chance that LeBron is playing in OKC.
Copes, I'm coming to you.
All right.
Now, you're probably the most fashionable on the desk.
No, not probably. I am.
Well, I'll let you
Wouldn't
make
have
that
thought
decision.
so.
So when it comes to fashion, we head to you. So truth or trash?
Yes.
Josh Giddey has got ahead of himself.
Look up behind you.
Oh, dear.
Lord have mercy. Now, listen, I'm going to call his father and say, look, Warwick, tell this guy to call me before he puts on the Blue Lagoon.
Oh, it's nice.
Jewelry.
It looks like Cookie Monster.
What about
Would
the
you
red
wear
bit?
that?
What about the
What
red
about
one?
this pink number?
Josh, what about this number? Josh is just moving up in Hollywood now.
That's popping. That's popping.
My man, look, let me tell you
The
something.
Valua.
When the money starts rolling in, you have to dress appropriately. And I think he's done the right thing. Look at the shades.
He is looking
He
absolutely.
looks very nice.
He's got
That's a tick.
swagger.
That's a
he's
tick.
got
Give him a tick.
confidence.
Give him a swag, man.
I'm loving it.
Nice. Like it.
Well, what he's done, he hasn't gone too far, like some of the get-ups. I think he's...
Not yet. Not yet.
But he's heading there.
He's heading that way. That next check, you might see him flying a helicopter and drop him off or something crazy. All right, now, Kane, truth or trash? Chase Buford was lucky to coach the game on Sunday.
Come on, Kane.
This is one of the easiest trashes we've had to have all season long. So the coach got a little bit fired up, which, by the way, he did that because it was an awful call, and the league had to apologise about it the next day. So this was a flop warning on Kawhi. He ended up walking off the floor with blood pouring out of his nose. Chase Buford was fired up about it. Asked the referee, "Can we just show a bit of common sense here and maybe change this up?"
But how did
and he
he
got
ask?
ejected.
In a polite manner, or this?
Okay, that's fine.
But he's got form as well, though, Kane.
It doesn't matter. If you're going to say that he should have missed a finals game because of a bit of language, watch every single NBL game and you'll get some non-family language. Don't mic them up. Don't mic them up.
Demonstrative. What about that? He's got form. I don't know. I don't know that you can be talking to refs like that when kids are watching.
That would have been a ridiculous suspension.
It flows onto the grassroots. So I think we're going to have to agree.
We know which team you like. We know which team you with.
Agree
For
here.
the first time, we might... Hey, now, come on.
We might need to
Gazey,
get
you
to a
agree with
break
me?
here.
Okay, someone back me up now.
No, I didn't.
All right, so you need your dad to back you up. All right, let's get to a break before this gets too spicy.
Dad, ain't that on? What are you talking about?
Grandpa? I don't know. NBL Hall of Famer Steve Carfino on the other side of this. Join us.
Guys, go on there.
That's a race against my past. Whenever they clap me, that's 2,000 on the dash. When it kinda tickles me, and every day I laugh. Yeah, you know we number one, and you don't need to ask. We gon' get it done. 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 We gon' get it done.
Morant takes flight.
We gon' get it done. We gon' get it done.
What you call throwing it down.
We gon' get it.
Bam.
Well, there's no doubt about it. The ESPN is the home of hoops, covering all aspects of the game. And here at The Jump, we also have to acknowledge, Copes, some of our history. We would not be standing here if it weren't for people like our next guest, a guy who paved the way in television commentary, Mr. Magic himself, Steve Carfino. Steve, thanks very much for joining us on The Jump.
Ooh, that's a hell of an introduction. Thank you very much.
Hey, Steve, of course, it all started for you coming out as a player. Most of the people remember you as a commentator, but it all started back with the Hobart Devils playing on a lino floor in shorty shorts. What was it like when you first came over to Australia?
Well, it took me a while to figure out all the lines because there were about 50 lines right there. You can never tell when you're inbounds or out of bounds. But when I first came here, I was playing at Iowa. We had concert speakers in our locker room. We had individual everything. So we were really looked after. And then my first training session, we had to pay for training at Warren Training, and then a huntsman crawled on my foot after I was having a shower. It was cold, damp. It was a rude shock, but that just showed me how much I love to play. Willing to come over and play under those circumstances, and the city got behind us, and then all that was history.
And he's still here, Coach.
Absolutely. That's my question. Steve, what made you stay in Australia?
I think that, I came here, and Hobart was lovely, and then the competition, I had a different role. I was just a role player in college, and so I got a lot of freedom, was able to take that opportunity and, really got to see what I could do as a basketball player. And then 2 years in Hobart turned into, a number of years, 5 years with 3 years in Sydney. And, I felt like I was playing some great basketball, really enjoying the country. I'd moved to Sydney. We're going to the beach and Tamarama by day, the Sheep by night, the name of this pub. I had a great time. And then it just, one great thing led to another. I was, I got started in a television career, and I was always kind of comfortable in front of the camera. I'm sure there were plenty of games at Iowa where I wasn't the MVP, but I used to elaborate on the questions, and so they would often say, Steve, we'll get him into the press conference, and I was able to turn that into just talking freely on the camera. Not looking very comfortable in front of the camera at first. I don't think I realized I could turn my head without moving my shoulders. I was so stiff. But, after a while, when you have to do it, it's amazing what you can accomplish. So, I had a fantastic, very long, and I really appreciate the career that I had in television. It was nothing but fun. Working with the likes of Drewy and Shane Heel, D-Ruck, and we had just a blast while we were doing it. At times I had to kind of pinch myself that it was actually a job.
Hey, Steve, and you've got in your commentary, and we know how fantastic you were at that, and you did it for such a long period of time. But let's not go past what you're able to do on the basketball court as well. With the Sydney Kings, it was that era when the sport was really growing. And as we take a look at some of your highlights there, you downplayed your college career, but you were pick 139 in the 1984 NBA draft.
That's worth a lot of money now, Steve. These days, that's worth a lot of money, bro.
But that time, it was an exciting time to be part of basketball here in Australia. And you, with that personality, big part of growing the game.
Yeah, it really was. You know, when I got to Iowa, they had just gone to the Final Four the previous year. And so they signed a new television contract with the Iowa Television Network. And our games used to rate 71s. And just to give you an indication of how big that was, the top rating show on television was a Cosby Show at that time. And that was only rating 17. So everybody in the state of Iowa was watching us. You know, we couldn't go anywhere without signing autographs. And it was just crazy. It was just treated like rock stars. And so I was there kind of at the beginning of the height of basketball's popularity at the University of Iowa. Then I went to Hobart, and they were 2-24 the previous year, and we were able to go, I believe, 9-16 or 9-17, which doesn't sound like a great result, but with the team we had and the competition that we were coming up against, you know, that was a pretty good record. Then the next year, Paul Stanley joined us, and we went 14-12, and just there were only 6 teams that made the playoffs back then, so we just missed out on it by a game. And everybody just expected to beat Hobart. So, you know, Australians love going for the underdog, and we were definitely the underdog in just about every game that we played in. So that was a lot of fun being at the early stages of that. Then moved to Sydney, and Sydney were struggling to get people into the stands, and Mike Wroblewski and the ownership group did a great job right there and getting the team together and really getting behind it. One of the first sports to really get corporate sales in, corporate boxes. They were kind of the pioneers in a lot of the promotion of the game, going out to schools and things like that. So then going from that to television, it just seemed like I was in the right place at the right time, the early stages of the growth. And so it was great to see it go from the early stages into something pretty big. So, you know, I'm pretty proud to sit there and watch, you know, the games and the talent that's on the floor, and, you know, the professionalism that Larry and the crew at the NBL put on the screen and on the court every single game. So, you know, to sit back and think, yeah, you know, like I was a part of that. That's pretty cool.
Now, Steve, for all the young kids that watch the show, you watch basketball today. Who would you compare yourself to in the NBL right now as a point guard? Don't be shy, Steve. Don't be shy.
Or the NBA.
Or the NBA. Whatever. Come on, Steve. Give me something.
I always thought I played a lot like Kevin Johnson when he was with the Phoenix Suns. You know, he was kind of that quick, and he could hit the shot. And if you got close to him, he's quick enough to get past you. You know, he was happy to distribute the basketball to his teammates, but also, you know, when he needed to create shot, you know, late in the shot clock, he'd create something with his speed and his ability to put the ball in the hole. So NBA-wise, you know, I know I'm going back. Kevin Johnson's not a lot younger than I am, but in today's game, it's so different. You know, like the guys have such skill, but, you know, I still think that, you know, there's a lot of the game that when we played it, you know, more execution, more getting your teammates involved, more, you know, role players, things like that, you know, maybe I'm being a little nostalgic and glorifying the past, but, you know, I like the game. I like the European game. I like the NBL game. I like the NBA game. I love the game itself, but, you know, I guess I'm kind of stalling to see what I could kind of compare myself to. But I tell you who I do like. If I could handle a ball like Walton Jr., he can't shoot like I could, but he handles the ball better. He handles the ball better than I did, but I could defend better than him. So I'd like to say, I like the similarities in our game.
Absolutely. Very good comparison. Now, Steve, I've been with you on that journey for a bit of it in the commentary team, and we've seen some crazy things happening with lights going out, network going down, having to sit there and not being able to broadcast. But one of the more memorable occasions happened at the West Sydney Razorbacks when we saw a streaker come onto the floor, and we came on and went right in front of our commentary box and did a cartwheel.
What?
And honestly, we could see the small intestines. That's what was happening. Steve, that would have to go down as one of the more remarkable moments.
I believe your comment was afterwards. you just couldn't believe that there was a streaker. And we saw it. There was a few things after that, you know. Hopefully this is okay, but there were a few things after that because the girl did the cartwheel, ran off the court.
Yes.
Security didn't get her off the court. She went, sat back down next to some people in the stands, and they were all uncomfortable. Like, should we move or should we stay? It was kind of awkward. I thought that was funny, but just what you said afterwards, like, oh my goodness, you would think that you know, you would clean yourself up before you make such a public display.
Steve, what a day.
Well, it's fair to say things have moved on a lot since then. But when you think back on your commentary career, what are the things that stand out for you?
I just think just getting the opportunity. I mean, at times I remember thinking I was just trying to act like a commentator. And then when I went from color or as the expert to the host, as you are now, Drew, because you made such a wonderful introduction to this segment, it was really interesting, you know, to see that how much detail went into hosting a show, how much responsibility it was, how much goes wrong in live television, and to be able to do that. You know, like when the monitor goes dead and then they refer to what's on the monitor, like here's the starting five. And, you know, I had to learn, you know, by getting thrown into the fire, you know, like, because we were getting different production teams all around the country. So, you know, somebody might have a whiteboard and they'd be giving you the information just in case the monitor goes dead. Sometimes the earpiece would go dead and the director would be talking to me and I couldn't hear him. So, you know, I learned that, you know, if I tap my ear, they understand that I couldn't hear him. They have to repeat it or whatever it may be. You know, just being able to accomplish those things and learn on the fly and be able to do a professional job that, you know, people were happy with for a number of years.
Hey, Steve, you did it magnificently well, and we congratulate you on a wonderful career, both as a player and as a commentator. And we've enjoyed spending a little bit of time reminiscing with you here tonight. So congratulations, don't be a stranger, and who knows, we might see you back on that screen one day soon.
And you smell good too, Steve.
Hey, quit trying to dodge me on the golf course too. I know both of you are dodging.
No, I heard you're a bit too good for us. So we're working up to that standard, but thanks very much, Steve.
I appreciate it, fellas.
I don't know about you at home, but I'm still reeling from what we just witnessed. To take your mind off things for just a moment before we wrap up the show, it is a Friday feast for you on ESPN Live. The NBA, it is back. First up, it's the Grizzlies and the 76ers going head-to-head. Then it's the defending champs, the Warriors, taking on the Bronze Lakers. All of that is coming your way on Friday. ESPN, the home of hoops. You are watching The Jump, usually a very wholesome family show. I cannot believe you two brought up the streaker. You trashed the show.
It is a part of history. And
I'm in shock.
We did a lot of blurring.
But I actually went and listened to the commentary and rewatched that moment.
You were excited, Gazey.
It was quite interesting because there was one person in particular who picked up on the streaker first.
3:13 left on the clock. Oh my God! It is Big Wednesday here on Fox Sports. Oh, and I don't know if big is the word that we need. Oh, what is going on in the NBL?
You were so excited.
What about our man John Gazey? Wow, it's Big Wednesday. Did you hear him? It's Big Wednesday. I didn't think it was going to be that big. Unbelievable.
Oh my goodness, this show it's a show that keeps on giving. We really appreciate you joining us on a Wednesday night for The Jump. We will be back next week to preview the Grand Final series. Enjoy the rest of your week.
I need a drink of water.